Hello, and welcome to the Argyle Financial Controller Strategic Insights for Stronger Outcomes. My name is Michael with Argyle. It's great to have everyone joining us today. A couple of notes before I turn things over to our esteemed speaker. First, a quick reminder to stop by our sponsors' virtual booths at any time during today's event and for the following week. Our partners are committed to providing you with valuable content and a great overall experience. At any time during today's event, you can visit their virtual booths from the main agenda page, which include complimentary materials, information, and meet and greet opportunities. To ask questions throughout the session, simply type into the Q&A chat and we will address your questions at the end of the session. Also, be sure to subscribe to Argyle on YouTube for exclusive access to all our past events. And now, without further delay, I'd like to introduce our speaker, Christopher Hollinger, Chief Financial Officer with Rethink Food, New York City. We're excited to have Christopher with us for a keynote presentation titled Scaling Smart, Turning Finance Data into a Growth Engine. Christopher, we're so happy to have you with us today. Welcome, and over to you.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here today. So I just wanted to start with just, talking about what is the challenge. And the challenge is complex, what I call the complexity gap. In the old way of doing finance, it was all about, manual processes, paper trails, chasing the close. If you were to get to a 10 to 15 day close, you were very happy, you could do some reporting. But now everything is so much faster. And so accelerating the close is one of the key challenges, but also great opportunities of turning data into a growth engine, particularly financial data. The problem is as you grow, your manual processes, paper trails, the old way of closing just doesn't work. It doesn't scale with you as your organization grows. It starts to break. You have to do more invoices, you have to do more accounts receivable. And your team is spending so much time just trying to get the accounting, get the finances in order that you can't really give meaningful insights to department heads and the business leaders so that they can really manage their P&Ls in a much more effective way. So the goal is that you want to move from just recording history, recording transactions, and how do you really start to predict the future and give insights to your CEO as well as department heads and other people within the organization on how they can actually use the financial data, the financial insights that you're able to give them so that they can scale the company and they can really start to grow. The solution: you want to build a modern financial engine. So the first part is about smart investment. You need to choose the right scalable technology stack. You want a technology stack of your financial system that talks to the other components of your organization. So one of the things you want to look at, does your financial system or your ERP, does it talk to your CRM? Does it talk to your HRIS? Siloed data is the enemy of growth. If you have data in so many different places, it's very hard to pull that data together, to report on it for the department heads and your CEO to really make great actionable decisions. So first, the next step is how do you go about automating? One of the things I'm really focused on here at Rethink is how do we automate as many processes as possible. I really want my team to spend less time recording transactions, actually pulling together the numbers and the data for reporting, and spending more time actually sitting with the department heads, going over their P&L, helping them to understand what are the growth drivers from a revenue standpoint, what are the areas they can really affect from a cost standpoint, so they can increase the margin and really grow their department, which we like for them to think of as their own business. And then you really want to have resilience and innovation. You want to use real time, you want them to have real time visibility into everything. And where the real power comes in is scenario planning. As everyone knows, the modern environment is moving so quickly. Your revenues are moving around, whether you're being impacted by tariffs or other things that are happening. Your cost base expenses are being hit. Inflation, while down, is still still an issue. So the more real time visibility you have into your financials and the ability to do scenario planning. So if you want to pressure test revenues being cut 10%, if you want to pressure test your cost of goods sold going up by 5%. And there are a lot of tools today that you can really use to get much better insight into kind of how those things would affect you. So what do you really need to do when you're thinking about how do I go about, using automation? How do you go about using technology as a growth engine? So one, you want to have smart investment into your technology stack. You really want to avoid the shiny object syndrome. Everyone, I'm sure everyone goes to a lot of conferences. You go to a lot of workshops. People are reaching out to you about the latest and greatest technology innovation. Uh, AI is, of course, a big well, not necessarily a buzzword, but it's a way of changing how we do things. But we really want to start with the pain point. What are the pain points that you're really trying to address? Is it that your financial data is siloed? So for Rethink, I guess I should step back. Rethink, we're a nonprofit focused on food security and sustainability. We have three primary programs. We give funding to restaurants. Restaurants will make meals that then donate to community service organizations. We have a fleet of trucks here in the city, New York City, that picks up excess food from corporate cafeterias, supermarkets, and brings it to our community kitchen where we make meals that then donate it. And then we have a separate legal entity that does contract work. So for us, a big output or big component, as opposed in addition to the financial metrics we like to track or we need to track, is how many meals are made and where they're made. So one of the big things for us is how do we have a system where we can have not just our financial data, but our meal data, and those two talk. Well, the systems talk to one another, so that we can really do reporting on our expenses, but then the meals, and so we have an integrated look that our department heads can really see, so that they can manage their business. So that was one of our first praying points, because we have a separate financial system from our database, and so we really needed an ERP or we actually have an FP&A tool that combines the two and gives us one integrated look. So you really also want to look at, what is the four core stacks. So you have your AP, AR automation, which was the first thing we did. Historically, we were funded by philanthropy. I mentioned that we have a separate legal entity that does contract work, and we grew pretty rapidly in 2023 on our contract work. So we went from processing, maybe 10 to 20 invoices from our restaurant partners that were making meals to hundreds of invoices. And then we had to invoice the government entities to be reimbursed. So we were kind of ahead, and we started to automate our AP and AR using our system. And that really helped us to scale and grow, because if we had stayed with our manual processes, we wouldn't be able to do that. Expense management. You really want a good system in place for expense management. CRM, I mentioned earlier, if you can integrate your CRM, your HRS in one system, that they all talk to one another, it really helps your FP&A reporting. But also the other thing that you really have to keep in mind is what is your data like? Because I was at a conference a couple weeks ago, and one of the things they really talked about was the pyramid. So at the bottom, you have your data. That's everything that's coming in your financial system. It's coming in from your in our case, from our meals database. And you really need good, clean data to get to the second level. And the second level is your ability to report. So if you have good data and then your ability to report, then you can go to the next and top level where you can really have really good analytics, great insights that you can share with your department heads as well as your CEO. And that's where you really want to be. And so a big part of this whole process is how do you get to that top level? When you're thinking about automation shift, you know, where's your time? In the past, and even in some organizations, most of your finance teams are spending 80% of their time on manual tasks or data or other things. But you really want to flip that where you're spending 80% of your time on strategic work that really drives growth. And to get there, you really need to automate your high volume, low value tasks like AP, reconciliations, and there are so many other tasks that you can automate. And you really want to get to the point where you can automate that first level so that you can spend more of your time actually working on strategic work. And when I say strategic work for us, it's actually sitting with the department heads, helping them to understand their P&Ls. For me, sitting with our CEO, helping him to really manage the business from a strategic standpoint. And by freeing up a lot more of my time, I'm able to do that using technology, using other things that can kind of really get us there. And so that's always should be the goal. And if you can do this flip from going from 80% of your time on manual accounting like tasks, where you're actually spending more time on strategic, then that's when you get to your being able to have more resilience and innovation. Because, like I mentioned earlier, historically, 10 to 15-day close was the norm. A lot of some organizations have gotten that down to a 5-day close. I was in a meeting 2 days ago, and one of the companies was saying that they were down to a 1-day close because the quicker you can actually close your numbers or close your books and know your numbers, then the more ability you can give insights and real time visibility. Waiting for the month end close is now a liability. The world is moving too fast. You really can't wait that long to be able to do your reporting, to be able to give insights to your CEO and their department heads. By having, a much more faster close, by having much more automated processes, it makes it so much easier to do scenario modeling, doing what if analysis to prepare for changing market conditions. I remember when I started my career, scenario planning was basically taking Excel spreadsheets and then doing a lot of manual work, adjustments to model different scenarios. And it was a very time intensive process. With modern tools, FP&A tools, AI, if you have good data and you have your financial systems and your books closed, you can run scenario planning on the fly. It's so much faster, so much easier, and you're able to get so many much better insights to be able to provide insights to the leadership of your organization and to really help them to make decisions that really will drive growth. And all of this is to get finance to the goal of being less of a reporter, numbers cruncher, which historically finance has been seen as, and to becoming more of a strategic partner, being able to give insights, being able to give analysis to the CEO as well as the rest of the leadership team, such that they can really start to manage the business better and really grow the business. And that's really where you really want to be. So as you think about all of this, one of the things I would suggest is like really think about, your 90-day roadmap. Some of you are much further along. Some of you aren't, but you really want to get to this point. So kind of how we started day 1 to 30, really audit what are the weekly time sinks? What is really taking up a lot of time? Either that's from a manual, it's manual ways of doing things. The SOPs could be automated but aren't. Then 31 to 60 days, pick one of these processes. If you haven't automated your AP or your AR, think about how you can automate it. We haven't done it yet, but one of my dreams is that we use a system, a project management system across the organization. And so whenever one of the department heads or anyone else needs an invoice, they'll put a notice on our system. It pings to my finance team that someone has requested an invoice. They'll make the invoice, send it to them, and then we have trackers so that we'll follow up or if the invoice isn't paid in whatever the days are. Ideally, at some point, which we're really trying to figure out the best way to do this, is that person would go to the project management system, request an invoice. We would have a bot that would then go into our financial system, make the invoice, send it to the client. If they haven't paid by the day of, then there's an automated response or automated email or sent to them saying that the invoice hasn't been paid, and then it follows up on whatever cadence we want. That way, the only human in the process is when the actual person requests the invoice. Everything else is automated, unless at some point, let's say they're really delinquent and we want someone to call. But in most cases, that won't be the case. So really think about what processes you really want to automate and what could really save time. And then you use that saved time to conduct one deep dive strategic analysis for the CEO. For us, we're really focused on contracts. So how do we get more contracts? But then more importantly, how do we price contracts so that we can generate the largest margin for the organization? So the less time we're doing the reporting, the data, and we automate as much as possible, that gives me more time to really think about, and spend time with our CEO, helping him to understand, these are our drivers from a margin standpoint. If we increase, let's say, contract value by X, and we decrease the amount we pay to our restaurant partners by Y on individual meals, what would that look like for the entire organization? So these are the type of things that you really want to free up your time and then really transform finance such that you can give a lot more meaningful insights, a lot more meaningful analysis to not only the CEO, but also the department heads so that they can really make much better decisions. And you can make much better decisions as to one, where to allocate resources, where to make investments, such that you can really, really think about the best ways of growing your organization. And people ask me, when should you modernize and when should you do this? And I love to say, the best time to modernize was yesterday. The second best time is today. So really lean in and really be thoughtful about kind of what you really want to do, and really start on this journey of transforming your finance organization and turning the finance data into a growth engine. With that, I would love to make this more interactive and answer any questions.
Thank you, Christopher. This is an insightful keynote. And as a reminder, audience members can still continue to enter questions, and we're now going to review some of the questions that came through. Now, first question, from a systems perspective, should we prioritize upgrading analytics platforms or improving cross-functional data integration to unlock growth?
So I would say, to me, it depends on your organization. So from a cross-functional, for us, I'm just going to say from us. So for us, historically, we would, finance accounting would be responsible for the accounting finance information. And then the programs team was responsible for the meals. Where were the meals delivered? How, everything is related to the meals other than, kind of the pricing. So for me, if you have, and whatever your sales team is or whatever your product or service, if you have cross-functional data and you can bring it all into one system, I think that it really helps you to get a more holistic look on the business and also to be able to manage the business and manage the growth so much better. So I would say that to me, cross-functional is a priority. And also, from the standpoint of your HRS system, historically, HR information has been the prevalence of, of the HR team. If you have that within one system, and you can actually do your forecasting or your budgeting uh, more automated within the finance department, I think that also is very powerful.
Excellent. So let's move on to our next question. Do you believe finance teams will increasingly act as internal data hubs, connecting operational, customer, and supply chain insights to inform capital allocation?
I wholeheartedly think so. Yes, I think that historically, finance was just the bean counters and the numbers crunchers. Today, because in addition to finance, I also manage our data analytics, our technology, and our people department. So I think that finance is going to be increasingly called upon to cross to manage all data, because your data is really going to drive your, in this case, capital allocation. And if you don't have a good insight, and you don't have good reporting, and you don't have good capabilities of bringing that all together, particularly when you're doing scenario planning, I don't know who else can do that other than the finance department.
Thank you. Okay, looking on. Great presentation, Christopher. So our next question from this, looking ahead beyond 2026, will sustainable growth depend more on advanced analytics capabilities or on cultural shifts that empower finance teams to challenge strategic assumptions?
Oh, that's a good one. I think that the two, to be honest, kind of go together. I think there needs to be a cultural shift, not only in the finance organization, but within the organization in all organizations, to be more historically. I think people made a lot of decisions based off of gut feel, and I think that with the ability to use data to really make much better decisions, I think there's going to have to be a mindset change within all organizations to really think about how can we really use the advanced analytics in this case, to use the advanced analytics to go through our data to really help us to make better decisions. One, on capital allocation, also what markets to enter if you're looking at growth from a sales standpoint, uh, and really manage and run the business more efficiently.
Thank you. Our next question, how can I ensure data accuracy and consistency across departments before using it to drive strategic decisions?
Yeah, this is to be honest, this is the thing that has hurt our organization, and I think most organizations, is that, like I mentioned, that pyramid, and I wish I had a visual of it. The pyramid, in order to do the what everyone wants to do, the top level analytics, uh, is that you have to start at the bottom, and the bottom is having good, clean data. A couple of years ago, we went through an exercise where we historically we would just report as kind of one company, but in order to have hold our departments, because we have certain revenue generating departments, we want to have hold our department heads responsible. We had to come up with a way of segregating all of our revenues, all of our costs by department. So we had to go through a couple of months long process of going back through every transaction and coding that such that it would go into the system. And now, when new transactions happen, we code them based off of not just the account, but the department. But you have to have good data going in. And to be honest, that is the biggest struggle. With AI, there are tools that can help you do that. And so it's probably easier than when we first did it. But I think that is the biggest challenge, and you really have to invest a lot of time, effort, or whatever you can to make sure that you have clean data.
Thank you. And our final question: many organizations collect significant financial data, but struggle to operationalize it. What are the first practical steps controllers should take to transform finance data into actionable growth insights?
Yeah, I think that you have to start with what are you trying to do strategically. So for us, I mentioned that what we were really trying to do is we have like I said, four major areas. We have what we call our neighborhood meals. That's where we give grants to restaurants, but we also have some restaurants that fundraise on our behalf. So there's a P&L, there's revenue, there's expenses. We have our sustainable community kitchen. I mentioned that we pick up excess food, we bring it there, we make meals. But we also, certain corporate donors, they'll pay us a nominal fee to pick up their excess food. We also have other revenues, so it's revenue expenses. So for us, the first big thing, we from a strategic standpoint, we wanted each of those departments heads to look at their business as a P&L from a P&L standpoint and manage their business. So we really need to get the data to a point where we can report on that easily, so that they can have insights, so that they can truly manage that business. So I think as a controller, you think about what is your strategic initiative. Like I said, for us, is to have our department heads manage their own P&Ls, and then think about how you transform your data such that you can get it to the point where they can execute on that strategic initiative.
Thank you. That was excellent. Christopher, thank you for an incredible keynote. We appreciate you. Also, we'd like to thank everyone else for joining us today. And finally, we'd like to thank our sponsor, Ramp. Now, this session, along with all of today's content, will be available on demand following the event. Now, this officially concludes the Argyle Financial Controller Leadership Forum, Strategic Insights for Stronger Outcomes. Thank you again for joining us today and engaging in our content. We look forward to seeing you at our next Argyle Digital event soon, which will be our HR Leadership Forum, Empowering Workforce Resilience and Retention, on March 12th. Have a great rest of your day. And Christopher, thank you so much.
Thank you. Really enjoyed it.